Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. It's time to talk. Back to our series. Welcome back. I know it's been a while since I've been with you guys, so you'll have to forgive me for not posting for a while.
Alright, I got some jokes for you today. Waka waka! What do you get when you cross mock with sins? Moccasins!
Do you know what he's saying?
I got no idea. What are you asking me for?
And the other day, I wore my moccasins out in the rain, and they didn't get wet. Can you believe that? I thought they were gonna get wet, but they stayed dry.
Kind of like his humor.
Yeah, I get it. I know.
So I took them home and I threw them in the dryer and see if they would get wet.
Do you understand this message?
I told you I don't know this comical stuff.
Then when I took them out of the dryer, you know what happened? They fell apart in my hands. I was like, well, wait a minute. I thought these were moccasins, not mock and sins.
I still don't understand.
Yeah, that makes two of us.
So you know what I did after that? I took them to my seamstress and I said, can you put these mock and sins back together? She looks at me and says, you mean moccasins?
Is he speaking a different language or something?
Yeah, I think you're right.
So I asked her if she could have them ready for the next day. She said, why? I told her, I'm going on a hot date. I've got to go to the beach and stand on the sand and then walk into the water. I got to try and keep my feet dry and clean. Then she said, well, why don't you take them to the dry cleaners?
Yeah, I don't think he's speaking our language.
No, I don't think either. Let's blow this popsicle stand.
Hey, wait, where are you going? I got another joke. I got more jokes, you know?
Anyway, let's get off of those subjects and get back to the real meat and potatoes of why we're here, right? This is our description series, and this is video number 3, tip number 2. And tip number 2 is using universal language. What do I mean by universal language? Do I mean English? Mandarin? French? Universal language is the kind of language that we use to represent something that can be understood by everyone, that can be read and seen or understood on a general level. The biggest stepping stone in that area is concrete imagery. The concrete imagery is something that we use to describe particular details. We have at our disposal in the English language a diverse range of words to use, and that diversity is extremely useful for us because let's say you want to describe one scene in 5 different ways. You could do that using English. And the reason is because we have these words that give us certain connotations and certain feelings and certain help us create certain moods. This is what we're going to use our words for in our novels, to create a feeling, a mood that helps us tell our story in a certain way and make it look the way we want it to. For instance, if we wanted our setting to be on a deserted island but it was overcast all the time and rainy. But you wanted it to be a comedy. Then you would set the mood by using a very vivacious language, very upbeat set of words to help you create that comical feeling to your story. Just think Castaway with Tom Hanks. The point is, you can create a certain mood regardless of the setting. And you can create a certain setting regardless of the mood. The two things don't necessarily have to match. The thing that matters is the way it's communicated to your reader. And we do that with the words we use, of course. When we are writing, picking and choosing the right words to make those details stand out, I mean, yeah, it can be challenging. But because of the breadth of the English language, we have that availability to us for creating the world we want to create. So, how do we get there? Using universal language, using concrete imagery in your story makes it feel more real. So, what is a concrete image? A concrete image is, as opposed to an abstract image, something that helps you define or detail a specific thing in your story. An abstract idea is something that more or less gives you ideas rather than images, rather than specific details. Not that they can't be understood clearly, but that they do not convey information in the same way a concrete image does. So a concrete image would be a 3,000-page novel. I've never seen one of those, I'm just saying. Now, you can get hyper detailed with those images. The details that you include in your description obviously will have to matter to your story. So don't include details that don't really matter to the story. Like if you do have a computer with a cracked screen in your story, does it matter? Probably not, depending on the situation in the story, right? Now, if your story was a mystery thriller and your computer happened to be the murder weapon, I can't see that happening, really. I mean, picking up a whole computer just to... But anyway, what I'm getting at is that would make it more pertinent to your story, but you aren't going to mention it in a rom-com if there's absolutely no purpose for it being there. They've never met on a computer. They never sit down at a computer together. They never see their computers, etc., etc. That would be a detail that just doesn't make sense for the story. So your details do have to make sense for your story. They have to make sense because your story is going to determine the details in it. That has to be your focus. Being unfocused in your story obviously is going to create problems and not solve them. The biggest reason I wanted to make this part of this video series is because there are a lot of writers out there who forget to make it make sense for their readers. Even some tend to write symbolism into the story that only they understand, and the reader has trouble finding the message in. And that's a mistake. It's an easily avoided mistake. It's avoided by using a universal language that everyone can understand. And that isn't to say that you can't be hyper detailed in a way that conveys how a certain machine works if it matters to the character in your story. You want to include that. It would add an extra dimension of reality to your story. So you do have to watch that and be aware, be self-aware as a writer enough to be able to use certain amount of details, portray certain reality to the situations that the characters are in, as well as communicate effectively the story you're telling. That was the major point that I wanted to get across. The reason is because I care about the quality of people's writing, and I want to see that improve. Unfortunately, a lot of writers these days don't improve, and that's sad. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around as long as you have. I appreciate your time. Talk to you later.